Welcome to a Bestow TV production. If you enjoy our content, please click the subscribe button. To get notifications of new releases, ring that bell. Thank you, and away we go.
Bestow Productions presents Creative Continuity at Baltimore Comic Con 2013. Get the latest news directly from your favorite artists, writers, and a few surprises. Tune in for Creative Continuity's coverage of Baltimore Comic Con. We bring the convention to you.
Talking with writer and artist Ray Fawkes. Can I ask you how you got started in comics?
I started out with the self-publishing. You know, I did the do-it-yourself. I did these little 8.5 by 11 folded in half minis. You know, and sooner or later, eventually, a few years out, some smaller publishers started picking me up, and then get up to companies like DC, Marvel. You know, I did a book called The Apocalyptics with Cameron Stewart for Oni Press a few years back, and that was sort of my first big thing, you know, and a book for DC Vertigo called Nemivore with Mike Huddleston, you know. So those were the first sort of big deals.
So that kind of broke you into the barrier
of getting paid for doing my work, you know.
Did you finance? I mean, how did you finance some of your self-published? Did you finance it on grants? Did you have a job?
Most of it was just off the day job, you know, just set a little money aside and put together, like, you know, when you're photocopying your own books, it doesn't cost that much.
Recently you've been doing JLD. How'd you mentioned that you've been friends before with Jeff Lemire for a couple of years.
Oh yeah, no, well, me and Jeff, we both come from the do-it-yourself sort of self-publishing world, and we knew each other from those days, you know, and he was bouncing stories off of me, and he got stretched kind of thin on a number of books he was working on. He asked me to come on board and help him out, and I did, and you know, there you go, off to the races.
What do you feel you've been bringing to the book? I know you guys are ending it with Jay, Mr. DeMatteis taking over. How do you feel your and Jeff's storyline has kind of panned out?
Well, I think, you know, both of us brought a lot of love of the characters to the book, you know, and a lot of fun. Jeff brings a little more of the lighthearted stuff, you know, and the human soul, and I think I was bringing maybe a little bit more of the poetry and the viciousness, you know.
What was your favorite character in there writing? Because you had Frankenstein, John Constantine, the entire supernatural pantheon.
Well, my favorite character in the JLD was actually Madame Xanadu.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's a lot of fun to play with, but I love John Constantine too, you know.
Really her predicting kind of events and things. How did you guys go about kind of situating her and kind of that?
You know, it's kind of easy. Well, we can cheat, right? Because we're the ones who are going to write what happens, so it's easy for us to make her know what happens. But you know, it's fun to write about somebody who knows what happens and doesn't want to let other people know, because it weighs heavy on her, right? So what's cool about her is when she knows things are going to go wrong, she doesn't want to tell people, but you can see how it affects her, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know, with the New 52, we wanted to make John maybe a little bit younger and a little bit more aggressive and more adventurous. So one of the things we decided to do is make him a traveler, right? That he goes around the world a lot. And you actually see, if you're reading the book, you can actually see that he actually can't go home to London. London is trying to kill him for all the bad things he's done. So he has no choice but to travel. At first, we're going to bring him back to London again, and some interesting things are going to happen there.
Is that going to be kind of the major kind of climax with kind of his London angle there?
Well, I mean, it's, you know, London is his home, and I know that a lot of the old readers, they feel that London should be his home, and so, you know, John's been locked out of a place, but there's one thing he doesn't like is to be told he can't do something, so he'll definitely be going back there.
You seem to really have nailed his voice.
Oh, well, thanks.
How did you do that?
Well, I mean, a part of it is I know I personally am a longtime Hellblazer fan, so, you know, reading it all the way back to Jamie Delano's work and all that, I feel like, you know, maybe after 300 issues I might have a little familiarity with his voice. But also, I did a bit of research, and I watched a bunch of stuff about sort of working class British, mostly criminals, to be honest, because that John technically is a criminal. And to make sure I had a voice that sounded legit, you know.
I just want to talk a little bit about Shazam. What made you want to turn him into Captain John Constantine?
Well, it was more like I wanted him to try and take one of the heroes in Trinity War off the board. And we knew that Shazam is going to play a big role in the story, so I thought it was a perfect match to have, John, the sort of seedy con man, versus Billy Batson, the 13-year-old sort of streetwise kid,
Yeah, and just this purity to him.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, and I just thought that was sort of a perfect fight to have happen.
Yeah, now he's corrupted by Pandora, and right now he is.
Yeah.
What's coming up for Constantine?
He's still traveling. He's going to keep traveling, and his conflicts with some of his enemies are reaching a breaking point. And then, I think everybody knows that Forever Evil is going on now in the DC universe. John, true to form, is, I would say, one of the people who managed not to get killed by the crime syndicate, and he's got a lot of work to do, and he's in a world without any heroes to help him out.
How did you get on Pandora, might I ask?
When Trinity War was being planned, we knew that Pandora was going to play a role ever since the end of Flashpoint and then the start of the New 52. So there was kind of an idea to have a new series about Pandora. I sort of pitched this 10,000-year-old ninja killer, basically, which I guess was different from what a lot of people were expecting. I think people wanted someone sort of, or were expecting a ghostly, sort of sad, melancholy character. Instead, they get this really angry, really tough woman, For many thousands of years, she thought that the destruction of the box would end her curse. She's about to learn that that's not true, so she's going to try and find out more about the box and about herself, and ultimately, too, she is caught in this world where the villains have taken over, and if there's anything she hates, it's evil. So,
Is she going to be going after Ultraman and the crime syndicate, maybe?
In her own way, yes.
Are you ever going to address some of the Flashpoint stuff, because she was basically responsible for the complete New 52? Are you ever going to play with that a little bit come down the road?
I have to be really careful answering this question so I don't give anything away.
I don't want you to.
Yes, I intend to address it. That's all I can say. I think the hints that I gave before are as far as I want to go. So the question that I've always been considering is, once Pandora was involved in reconstructing the universe, is she still the same Pandora that she was then? Well, I think that's something to think about. I'm totally happy where I am. Constantine, Pandora, they're running smoothly, and I hope people enjoy them.
Thank you, sir. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is Tommy Zimmer for Creative Continuity at Baltimore Comic Con 2013.
I knew pretty much since I was like a little younger, I wanted to do the comics thing. Basically when we had, pretty much I was fresh out of high school. I was one of those kids who passed high school by the skin of my teeth. So I couldn't really do art school. I couldn't afford it. I didn't have any scholarships or anything. So, I pretty much taught myself how to do comics properly, and I thought I wanted to go in the print, the front door, try to get a job at Marvel or DC or something. But as you can see, I have a very cartoony style, and I get when I was first starting out, it was very heavily anime influenced. But I would try to submit to the big companies, and they're like, yeah, your stuff's a little too cartoony, a little too anime. So I go to so at the time Tokyo Pop was a big company. So I go to Tokyo Pop. I was like, yeah, your stuff's a little too American looking. So I realized that if I wanted to try to get into comics, I had to try to sneak in the back door, and the biggest back door is webcomics. So yeah, I started my own company. At the time, it was Severed Limb Studios, right out of Baltimore. We would do the Baltimore Book Festival and do stuff there. And at the time, we were thinking, I'll print my own comics as webcomics. That's not going anywhere. But I'm sure Xeroxing, books in your basement. That's the road to stardom right there. We learned really quick that was not the case. There was some stumbling blocks that way. So then we started doing the Interrobangs thing, and I learned. I actually started putting your stuff out there on DeviantArt and the big art websites where people go to look for art. I did work for Nickelodeon Magazine doing Go Diego Go Comics. I actually got that through my editor at the time finding me on DeviantArt. So that was really cool. And so we used the audience we built there to check out our other, we'd reel them in with stuff like the Sucks Me Ouija, the parody stuff, and with the fan art type stuff. But then, once you reel them in, then you're like, well, I also do this. I'm very lucky. I've got like a very round, like cartoony, like fun, bright style, and kids love it, and adults feel really comfortable with it. So like we get like a really diverse crowd, and like people who aren't normally into comics will see like our stuff and get really excited about it, and like we'll sell people on that. Or people have seen that of the Avengers print, the Avengers Booty Assemble. Like that's been drawing people who otherwise wouldn't be into my work. Nintendo fans are really also a really diverse bunch, and I'm lucky that they've got a pretty low threshold for like, hey, if you got Nintendo, we'll give anything a shot. So like I was worried like, oh man, what if this sucks? And they don't like it. It's like, oh no, like you've got Nintendo in it, we'll give it a shot, and if it's really good, then we'll really like it. I'm a significant portion of the creative end of this. With like stuff like Ensign Sue Must Die, like Claire from Toronto, she's the writer for that, and so we've been collaborating on that. Sarah is like the business end of the relationship. She also helps with inking on like Trigger Star and some of our earlier stuff. And she does Spinks, which is a little adorable little webcomic, fat things with tiny feet. They don't speak, but they have awesome hats. And like I said, she handles a lot of the like editorial duties and like mostly the business end of stuff. Like I'll tell you, or anyone who's watching, if you're trying to get into art, either take business courses or get engaged with someone who did. Because knowing the business end of the art world makes things a lot easier. If you can't manage your money doing the freelance thing, then you're doomed before you start. So talent is one thing, but also knowing how to how to do the business end of it is equal to, if not more important. And so right now the big things we are again secret project involving the website, but we got the third and final Ensign Sue book. But then from there, we got a bunch of original projects that we're working on concept stuff for now that I'm hoping to have in like a lot of again, like we got people reeled in with our parody stuff, and I like to show them our chops on more original projects.
Well, that's sort of one of her greatest fears, is that all of a sudden everything's going to catch up with her. So, honestly, it was a lot of fun to do it.
Watch Creative Continuity, Cartoons, Con Rewind, Mr. Lobo Does, and more on this channel.
Creative Continuity. We bring the convention to you.